Hey, have you ever pissed off an entire country? I apparently have the power to do that now. So this is a couple weeks behind. I really meant to put this out last week, but things got busy and I didn't get around to it. But I wanted to do a video as a bit of a follow-up to the COVID video that I did, well, a couple weeks ago now. So in that video, I covered a lot of ground. And I spent maybe 20 or 30 seconds talking about Sweden and their strategy to combat COVID-19. They were relatively more open than other places. And so I kind of breezed past this idea because there were some people that were talking about herd immunity, and a lot of the stuff that I was reading, and I can show you in a second the kind of stuff that I was reading, was saying that that was kind of the policy that Sweden was going by. And so that's how I displayed it in the presentation. But that doesn't tell the whole story. And a lot of Swedish people told me this. Can I just say real quick, I have no problem with Sweden. I have no anti-Sweden agenda. I think there were a few comments that basically accused me of that. Guys, I grew up listening to ABBA. IKEA shelves. There are a few things that I will defend myself on just a little bit, but in general, look, if I get things wrong or if I mischaracterize things, which is kind of what we're looking at here, I want to set the record straight. I want to make sure that I'm not misleading, and I don't want to be somebody who puts misinformation out there. There's too much of that in the world, and I'm trying to combat that. So the biggest thing that it seems like most of the responses that I got, the biggest issue that they had was that I basically made it sound like Sweden was just open and they were just, not doing anything about it. When, in fact, in the video, I said that they limited gatherings to 50 people or less, and that I think I said something else in the video that they did. But the general thing that I have heard many times over from different commenters and stuff is that basically Sweden, just kind of the way they operate, just their system of government, they don't really enact emergency powers unless it's something like a war. So they work off of recommendations. This is what has been told to me, is that they work off of recommendations and most people follow it, and that the recommendations are put forward by the scientists that study this. And I think it's just sort of a difference in cultures kind of thing that, when we over here hear that there's just recommendations, there's not really laws, it just kind of sounds like, oh, you just let it go. And that's not really what they did. One of the explanations that I had been sent was that for the reasons why maybe their numbers were a bit higher than others, one is that they travel more in Sweden. Swedes just travel a lot more, so that kind of brought more of it in than other places. And they also had a winter break in school that might have happened at just the wrong time, and that kind of let things, swell up more than other places. But yeah, one of the things that people took issue with was, I said in the video that they thought that the number of cases would go down by the summer. I think it was in April when they enacted these recommendations, and they thought that it would be down by the summer. I said that it didn't go down by the summer. A lot of people took issue with that, but I want to show you where I got this from, just real quick. I got it from the Worldometer site, which has been a pretty good source of information for the most part. But as you can see in this number right here, this graph right here with the new cases, it did spike toward the end of June. Now, the deaths, thankfully, have trended down this entire time, and that's awesome. But I think a lot of people thought that I was talking about deaths instead of new cases, but I was talking about new cases, and this is where I got that information from. New cases did actually spike in June. It has thankfully gone down since then, and the number of deaths even more so. So I also based some of what I said off of some articles that I read that referred to an interview with Anders Teglin. I think I'm saying that right. He's the epidemiologist who was in charge of the country's response. And this back in June, so it was like June 3rd, he says that too many have died, and that he regrets kind of doing things the way he did. I'll share the screen here. So this is from the BBC. He talked about how too many people died, and he probably would have done more of a lockdown situation if he had it to do all over again. Now, this was back in June, and there were a lot of articles, as I'll show you right here, from back in June, so that was the BBC. There's Bloomberg, Telegraph, NPR up top there, New Statesman, The Guardian. So a lot of these, as you can see, they were around early June when he had said that. So that might not be the most recent thing that I could have used to talk about that, because things got a lot better after that point. Well, they got worse, and then and then they got a lot better. There's also something that a lot of people have said, that most of the people who died, and this is true everywhere, but that most of the people who died were elderly people in some of the nursing homes. I think they had a rash of outbreaks in nursing homes, and that killed a lot of people. So that caused the death rate to go up. But it's skewed. It's not so much like the entire country is overwhelmed with it as it is that sort of specific sector of society, which is unfortunate and sad, tragic always. But it can be misleading to just kind of make it sound like the whole country has gone up in flames or something, which I don't think I did in the video, but I clearly worded it in a way that made it sound like I made it sound like Sweden just kind of said, woohoo, let's just party. And that's not what they did. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, every country has their own way of handling this. They have their own cultures. They have their own sets of laws and standards in their society and in their government. If there's anything that can be said that's true right now, is that somebody from the United States is in no place to criticize how other countries have handled it. I was just simply talking in the video about some people talking about herd immunity, and not doing a vaccine, or not wearing masks and letting it just kind of pass through the society. And that was the closest thing I had to a country or a place that had done it that way. That wasn't necessarily exactly how they did it, so that might not have been the best use of an example. It might have been a bad mischaracterization. So I want to lay out the truth on that. I don't want to let it sit out there and be misinformed, and I certainly don't want to offend everybody in Sweden. That was not my intent. So I hope that kind of sets the record straight a little bit. I'm not above correcting myself if I get things wrong. I want to be accurate. There were a lot of other things that people were saying that I was wrong about with Sweden. But those were the top ones, and the ones that I feel like I could speak to real quick. Some of them I felt were not fair, and some of them were frankly inaccurate. Some people just kind of had their own misinformation, that they were angry that I didn't share the misinformation that they were sharing. But anyway, the Sweden situation, it's more nuanced than I let on in the video, and I just wanted to make that clear. So there you go. Moving on. Anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope that soon this will all just be a memory that we'll be picking battles over for years to come. Yay. And with that, I'll drop off the face of the earth now. Thanks, you guys, and I'll catch you next time. The next time I screw things up, you'll see me then. All right, later.